Probably some internet issues. I started this already. There we go. So, okay, YouTube at least is up and running. Just making sure. So,
do I need to go look at the?
No, it's just videos interrupted for some reason. I mean, we were started. It'll pop back up, I'm sure, but YouTube's up and running. So we can exponentially increase our subscribers to YouTube today.
Maybe folks can still hear us on Facebook. They just can't see us.
I don't know.
I just don't know.
I don't know. I really don't. I can't even get to it. Well, I guess I probably could comment somewhere. Maybe not. I don't know. But anyway, we're there. So at least we got, that's the good thing about having a backup like that. See what this says.
And Tom's probably
checking in. Yeah,
great
people are still checking in.
Magic 95.9. Yeah, as long as you can hear us, don't worry about the.
So Harvard researchers look at satellite imagery around the hospitals.
Can see all in here. So it's okay, good.
Good. It's just our video that's interrupted. So okay. So Harvard researchers looked at satellite imagery around the hospitals in the Wuhan.
Right. Think about this, folks.
They looked at traffic. They looked at all the things that would indicate something going on in the hospital.
Going to the hospital. Yeah.
They started looking at internet searches out of China for the symptoms of COVID.
Right.
Diarrhea, coughing, and related searches. What they found, and they're hypothesizing, and it's going to have to be peer reviewed because we've learned that you can't just publish this stuff without that these days, right? And you can't
it's just not the truth.
Yeah, and you what you see, they're seeing something going on.
Starting when then?
I'm getting to that.
Oh.
Bear with me.
Let me tell these stories.
Yes, I'm getting to that too.
I want you to do that for me.
For myself here.
I love this. I'm here for you.
I'll play it for myself. Thank you. So what they found is that the activity around the hospitals in the Wuhan province didn't start picking up in December, as we were led to believe that the virus first made its appearance.
Right.
No, they started noticing an uptick in this activity going back to August.
Well,
August of 2019, and really saw it really hit peak like December numbers in around October, where the internet searches started ramping up for COVID symptoms, where the imagery of satellite imagery at the hospitals showed a lot more activity, cars coming and going, people coming and going. So their hypothesis is that this thing had been around a whole lot sooner than we were ever led to believe.
So the peak here, and I'm looking at a chart. By the way, this is straight up by age.
Okay.
Over 85, 74, 75 to 84, just right on down the line. You're like right in here. I'm like right in here. There's a graph. It starts on March 14th. It starts going up, almost vertical in terms of number of deaths. This is from 0 to 5,000 deaths over the week. And it peaked around the 18th or 20th of April. And then it has more gradually come down. As of 5:30, the number of deaths was down to very minimal.
And where is this at?
This is on CDC.gov.
Okay.
So that's the official graph.
Yeah.
And you'll remember, folks, that somebody said you can expect a peak in about a month period.
41 days, I think.
And there it is. There it is. 314 peaked a month later on 4/18/20, and then started coming back down. And it's
the interesting thing on this is it's broken down by age, and what it really shows is that basically, if you're 45, 54 years and younger, you're really not at much risk of dying from this thing.
That's exactly right. Old folks die. That's the way it is.
55 to 64, the count goes up. 65 and above, the count really starts to hit.
To go up.
But I think we had a few. A few new cases in Victoria County.
Yeah, Peterman now is just 13 new cases in Jefferson County. But you know where? I mean, was it 13 new cases? 13 people tested positive, 13 people with symptoms, 13 people in a rest home. I mean, these things matter because, again, I think we've learned. I just don't see anything that's going to shut down the economy again. I'm sorry. I think they're going to say, hey, people are going to die. Welcome to the real world.
Well, in Arizona is seeing an uptick. They recently opened up, and now they're worried that their ICUs are going to be overrun again. I don't know if they were the first time, but now they're worried about it. They put their hospitals on alert.
Well, think about the fact we were talking about sports and COVID and the NFL, and so baseball. Here's the deal.
Well, do we want to take a break and then get into the baseball?
Yeah, I'll ask,
the COVID,
before we take our break,
yeah.
How about this 2-minute conversation?
Yeah.
Did you get the notice yesterday from Facebook that a portion of our video had been taken down?
Yeah.
What did we even talk about, or what did we even? We didn't play anybody's video clip or anything. They said something about a portion of your show may have been the property of someone else.
Right at the start, when you hit start on Facebook, it was streaming the music from here. That's all that was.
Really?
Before we started the show.
So let me ask you this: Is there a bot that listens to the show and says, "Hey, that's copywritten material," or is there somebody somewhere who actually puts on a portion of our show and says, "Oh man"?
I don't know how that all works. I think it's algorithms and things. I don't know.
That's such a cop
John
out.
Paul Hall
It's
question,
an algorithm. What is an algorithm anyway?
It's an algorithm.
Oh, well, there you
Come
have
on.
it. Wade Carter. Good morning, Sheriff Louderback. We need to get you in here, sir. We want to talk about defunding the police as opposed to smart funding the police or refunding the police, and the idea to train, do more training.
It's a bot, according to John Paul Hall.
Okay, see, how about that?
Yeah. I responded to your question yesterday, but you obviously didn't read it.
I didn't. My bot kicked out you as a spam.
Yeah.
Prim. You're Canadian. You were deemed to be click.
It was click or treat.
You were click. Folks, real quick, Allen's Wrecker Service, 578-6300. Allen's Wrecker Service.
578-6300.
That's what you need. Put that in your phone. Please do us all a favor. Sheriff Louderback says he'll join us in studio Friday. How about that, folks? You have a need to know. We know the person to go to, and they actually agree to come on the air. Friday, Sheriff Louderback will be in here to talk about funding, defunding, refunding, co-funding, COVID funding.
Tough in Victoria right now because we don't have a police chief, we don't have a sheriff.
Other than that, it's anarchy. We're without police. Now, I heard a guy talk the other day and said that if you defund the police, the sheriff is not part of that program. The sheriff structure in Texas is one of the most unique law enforcement arms anywhere on the planet, and that you would have the sheriff would still be the head Shaka Khan. He'd be the head Shaka Khan. It goes back to Nottingham. Yeah. The sheriff of Nottingham.
Nottingham.
Right.
There's my beautiful wife, Cheryl, checking in. Good morning.
578-6300. That's Allen's Wrecker Service. VCS Companies, the Rocket Oilfield Services, and the only
locally owned and authorized AT&T retailer.
Kerr Boulevard.
Stop on by for all your personal communication needs. If it talks to something that talks to something else, they can make it all talk together.
A gate, surveillance. I have 1080p in color. You drive down my block, you Antifa on over there. When you get shot, it'll be red on my camera.
Security systems, fire alarms, carbon monoxide monitoring, all the safety things that you want in your new home.
Fire suppression.
Or an existing home. You're remodeling, they can do it all for you. Businesses as well. They've got commercial, residential, they can handle it
Great stuff. SCT Building Systems, Clayton and Casey Help. Talked to them the other day. I talked to Bree Hanchik yesterday. Clayton is putting on a fishing tournament, and Bree said, man, those Helps are serious about their fishing. And we'll have some details on that later. I'm sure Clayton will want to get the word out on that. But it's good to see young people like that involved in our community and excellent at their craft. If you need to build a he shed, she shed, a barn dominium, bricks and sticks house, concrete form structure.
564-8864 is the number to call.
There you go. Furnish it at Chesnick Furniture Company.
116 West Swan Land. They've been in business for 100 years, folks.
Chesnick and Love make your house a home. Go by and check it out. They have accoutrement.
They do. And everything else you need for your home. And it's all 50% off
Bedding.
as they celebrate 100 years in business.
Tempur-Pedic bedding.
All the furniture's 100%. We're 50% off.
Yeah.
For their 100th anniversary.
We just gave people a discount on bedding that may not exist.
No.
That Tempur-Pedic bedding is expensive, but it's worth it.
Tom Price, good morning to you. Kelly Fromme checking in. So,
It's like they say about divorce. Why is it so expensive? Because it's worth it.
speaking from experience, huh?
Sadly. Yeah, well, you know what? Yeah, it worked out pretty good. Good morning, T-Lat.
Is it going to work out pretty good for Major League Baseball players?
Well, so here's the deal. Major League players, what they said was,
because I thought, like we reported like a month ago,
I'll get back
that they had that they were going to start their season about a half a season, right?
July 4th, right? I still think they'll probably start in July, but here's the deal. Major League players said, hey, we want to play 114 games. We want you to take our salary and prorate it. So I want 114 divided by 162. I mean, I want 114 162nds of my salary. And Major League owners said, in short, if you made 16.2 million, you're wanting 11.4 million. Okay, because you want 114 games worth of your money. And Major League owners said no, because we're not going to have any fans in the seats. Now, catch this, folks. The NFL makes the majority of their money off television revenues. The Major League Baseball makes the majority of their money, or a large portion of their money, all of their profit, if you will, off of butts in the seats, concessions, jersey sales.
But you don't think MLB TV, their online product, would the subscriptions to that would just jump through the roof?
Good. And the owners have said this. The owners have said, hey, if we don't play, the owners only wanted to play 50 games. And the players said, no, that's not enough games. And I think the reason is, number one, they're like, it's not enough money for us to go play. But the owners are saying every game we play is going to cost us money as owners without butts in the seats. And the players aren't willing to budge at all. If you make $1 million a start like JV, then you want $1 million a start. He's not willing to do it for $500,000 a game.
Well, think about it. 50 games, that's nothing. We discount the first 60 games of the season. We really don't care about baseball. I mean, we care about opening day.
All-Star breaks when it starts.
And then we really don't give a crap until June.
Yeah.
April and May are kind of So basically the owners are wanting to play April and May baseball and figure out who's going to be the best team at that point.
Right.
That doesn't separate it. That doesn't separate the wheat from the chaff. It doesn't do anything there.
And I think a lot of nice biblical reference. I think a lot of people are tying that into the quality of the season. I think the players are tying it into revenue and greed. But it doesn't look like somewhere the two should meet. Baseball has countered. So it was 114 by the players, 50 by the ownership, and the players have come back at 89 games. And the owners have said, no, over those extra 39 games, we lose millions and millions and millions of dollars, and we're paying you millions and millions of dollars to lose more money.
Well, but here's the thing, okay? Then if they want prorated, then prorate the lack of the butts in seats and then figure it out at the end when the MLB TV subscriptions are up.
Legit point. And I think the owners are smart enough to say, hey, let's keep that little trump card to ourselves.
That might be it.
Yeah, that's the problem. So there is that. Golf coming back this weekend. What used to be just called the Colonial.
The Colonial is now
an invitational.
Yeah, up in Fort Worth.
Is now the Charles Schwab Invitational. For a long time, it was the MasterCard Colonial.
16 of the top 20. Did I read that right?
Yeah.
Players in the world will be
Tiger
this one.
Woods isn't playing.
Well, he's not in the top 20. I don't
But
think, is
here's
he?
the deal. I wouldn't be surprised. But here's the deal. How can you, not money winners, but probably more ranking? Golf is a perfect venue for social distancing and for crowds. We can
Yes
riot,
and no.
we can riot all day. Nobody gets sick, but we can't go to a golf tournament. It's outside. It's 100 degrees.
Think of the
It's
galleries around the
breezy.
greens, though, on the 18th green at the end of that thing.
If
That's
you want to
jam-packed.
go, go. That's my deal. Why wouldn't you
I
let
agree.
them go?
I agree. Which points out the idiocy of California that says you can't have a party of more than 12 people,
You can
but you
riot.
can have a protest of 1,000.
Sure, no problem. Y'all can all jam the streets.
I mean, that's legitimate. Their state
Yes.
guidelines right now.
I saw one the
But-
other day. It was a widow of a service member who had passed in the line of duty. This being like an Army veteran. And she said, how can it be? And they showed a protest from Austin. There were just waves of people. She said, I can only have 10 people at my husband's funeral. How can that be? That's government intervention messing with people's lives. It needs to stop.
So yeah, no, I agree with you on the golf. I mean,
Abbott needs to open the state back up, period. Just stop. We're over it. Quit protecting me. You know,
you
I
can
don't
protect
need it.
yourself.
Well, we never did it. I never bought into the hype. I just didn't. It's the flu. I'm healthy. I'm not buying into it.
I didn't buy into it, but I also
You did quit kissing me in the mornings.
But that was going to happen anyway.
It was.
But I did. You know, I'll be honest. I stopped making unnecessary trips to stores.
I did too.
I
Number one, I was tired of standing in line.
I am more conscious of the space I give people and the space that people give me. I have become more conscious of
I
that.
have to. And I'm clued in that when somebody, if you kind of get a little bit closer to somebody and they step back, well, then you just quit stepping forward.
Yeah.
You know, I've never been like a close talker, but I'm loud.
Never been a
So
soft talker either.
No, so I like to have private conversations. You have to be fairly close to somebody to do it. And, you know, but some people that historically get right up in your space have started stepping back. Some of that's just common sense. That's not a big deal.
I remember as a kid, they taught you, here's your safety circle. Remember? That was basically for germ protection and for personal safety. You had a space
And
around
my
you, about
safety
6 feet.
circle is a little bigger in the bathroom. Like, stay away from me.
Yeah, well, that's a given. But where did the common sense leave us when it comes to day-to-day interactions? I mean, I've never been one of those that if somebody's in front of me in line, I'm right there, right?
Right. James Kerr says, just go to the funeral. Who's going to stop you?
Yeah, that's true.
James Kerr, rule breaker.
So Forbes is walking it back. They published a study from a Norwegian researcher who basically said that his research and evidence points that the Wuhan may have been tweaked in a lab, manipulated. And he didn't blame the Chinese for releasing it. He still thinks that it was accidental.
Sure.
But he believes that the research or that the virus may have been manipulated by humans. He made a lot of claims that haven't exactly. There were a lot of claims in there that if other studies have debunked, like he said, this thing hasn't what's the word I'm looking for?
Evolved or morphed.
Yeah, and it has. There's been studies that have shown that. But how does Forbes, and Forbes even in their retraction of the story pointed out all the stories that debunked many of the claims that this researcher made. So that's my question. How does this researcher get his dang paper into Forbes? How do they report on it when they've already basically reported a lot of the stuff in there as not being true?
Right.
Then they got to walk it back. Somebody's not doing their job at Forbes, or
satire.
Yeah, well, yeah, they didn't though. Either somebody's not doing their jobs at Forbes, or oops, maybe there's a little bit of truth to this thing.
Right. It does make you wonder.
Kind of like the WHO this week, right? The World Health Organization. Well, asymptomatic people, the chance of you transmitting this thing is really rare. Then they had to walk it back. So either that lady had no business talking about what she was talking about,
right.
or the data was bad, or a combination of the two. And then they wonder why people are questioning the CDC and the WHO. And I get it. It's a novel virus. A lot of things we're still learning. But if we're supposed to understand that and act accordingly, why aren't the folks at the CDC and the WHO being even more cautious with some of the things that they tell us? Exactly. If they have to walk it back the next day, they expect us to all be good little stewards and sheep and follow along to what they say. But they're making us do this with everything they say because it's all contradictory.
Well, that's right. They make you feel like, oh, you're not going to get it without being around somebody with symptoms. And then the next thing you know, they're saying, well, that may not be true.
Which is the case with most viruses, right? You pretty much have to be presenting symptoms to be contagious.
All the while, Obamagate is going on. And nobody's talking about the folks that are on trial at all. We'll try to get into some of that tomorrow with some updates.
C-SPAN's got some interesting stuff.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, if Hillary's on trial here.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're actually on trial, if there's an investigation.
Well, there was a hearing on it that Hillary had to testify. She tried to block her testimony in the email, and now I think she's going to have to come back either later this summer or in the fall and testify. Joel Gomez has common sense left after they got rid of the Mr. Bungle films of right and wrong in schools back in the late 60s and 70s. I don't remember those.
The Clintons can't ever just answer a question, you know? They can't do it.
Jody Pickett thought we were talking about the band The Who. Roger Daltrey and the gang.
Yeah. They're absolutely at high risk for COVID. They're about 80.
At high risk for COVID. But I wonder if searches for their music have increased as we talk about The Who around the world. That would be interesting.
On the internet a lot.
Yeah. It'd be interesting.
Real quick aside, went yesterday to Veracruz for lunch. I call it Tilat Compuesta.
Just one?
I had two. But you take a crispy corn chalupa, beans, ground meat, then you put white cheese on it. And then lettuce, tomatoes, a big dollop of guacamole, and I put serrano peppers all over it. Fantastic.
You eat it like a pizza?
You
fold it over?
I cut it with a
fork. Cut it with a fork.
Okay. Yeah, it's still crunchy though. Unbelievably tasty. And I missed it. I didn't realize that the flavors, the guacamole was so on point yesterday. Veracruz is a great stop for lunch or dinner. They're seating people. They're practicing social distancing.
Restaurants will, I think, back up to 75% this week, right?
Yeah. And
Friday?
It was, to me, it was crowded at Veracruz yesterday, but not uncomfortably. There were tables missing, but it was full. Great place to be. You can still order to go, 576-6015.
Yeah, they're taking to-go orders.
Yeah. 6015 576.
6015, John Paul Hall, Razor IT Solutions. If you've got any.
He's not a bot.
No, he's
not an algorithm.
But he can explain them to you.
That's why they're called algorithms, because he's the guy. He's the guy that invented the internet, Al Gore. Reach out to him. Reach out to JP along the
I never made that connection.
Al Gore. Algorithms. That's when the Gores dance. Algorithms. Reach out to Razor IT Solutions. Help them. They'll build your brand, build your presence, Facebook, social media, help you get a paywall, help your internet page interface with your QuickBooks, the whole deal. Stuff you can't do. You think you can do it, but you can't. When you bungle it, Mr. Bungle, reach out to JP Hull. The Eisenhower dealership since 1926, quite simply Victoria's dealership. Whether you need a new Chevy, Cadillac, Mazda, Mitsubishi, or a pre-owned vehicle that they have on their lot, or you need service for any make and model.
You need a fleet of vehicles because your company vehicles are getting old.
I need a truck. What kind? White one. Yeah. What kind of truck? White one. I don't care what color, what kind of, as long as it's white. You can be any color as long as it's white.
White and vinyl seats. That's all I need.
Vinyl seats and rubber floor mats. Yep. I need some rubber floor mats and an AM radio.
That's a custom job nowadays.
AM radio. Yeah. You pay extra for
that. Yeah. They don't come in white.
We don't want any carpet.
They don't come with rubber floor mats.
All right.
They don't come in vinyl seats. They don't come with just an AM radio anymore. They got to actually call that into the factory, tweak the whole assembly line to get that one here, and
And
it
I
costs you
want
$30,000
four on the
more.
floor.
Yeah.
I want a shifter.
Don't do that anymore.
Daddy, what's that extra pedal? That's a clutch, son. There's Clayton Held checking in. We already talked good about you, sir.
Yeah, Get By Atzenhofer dealership since 1926. They've been providing Victoria all the automotive needs.
Back when Chevrolet made a vehicle they called the Chevy 500 because it cost $500. That's a true story. Now it's the Cadillac 98555 because that's what it cost. $98,555.
HR Mallory asks if Gray Barn Design can do a setup for a charity haircut event. You know, HR, reach out to Cheryl at Gray Barn Design, 920-6803. I'm sure she could, if the calendar permits, she would do it, but she'd be happy to talk to you for sure.
I guarantee you she's already got ideas in her mind.
Yep.
Yep. And she's very charity driven. So she'd be able to help you find a way to make some money.
Definitely. So yeah, give her a call,
She's wanting to give
920-6803.
you a haircut. The HR is trying to find a way.
I know. He's
To
trying.
talk you, that's about you. They want to cut your hair off.
I'm not the only one. I was watching a podcast with Chris Del Conte yesterday, and he's growing a beard and his hair. His hair is longer than mine.
I don't know if it's a tuft or a muff of gray stuff on the back of your neck. You know, like you normally touch your touch
Might be
toe
dog
touching
hair.
in the hair.
Might be dog hair.
It could be. It looks like where a cat was going. Just digging in there. You're not a cat guy, right?
I've got 3. I'm allergic to them. That's the thing.
I hate them. I have 3. I hate cats.
Cat allergies are not
If
fun.
I liked them, I'd have 12, like I do dogs.
Yeah.
I remember when the number was 9, and you were like, "That's it." Cheryl said, "No more." Now, how many dogs do you have now?
10,
But you've had as many as
12.
wow, folks. You think that's not
But those are rescues
50,
they're all rescues.
50 pounds a week of dog food?
Easily.
Why don't you get a sponsor? Why don't you get Stanley a sponsor? Look at that. Cheryl says, give her a call. HR 920-6803, and she's up now.
She'll take your call. She'll give you ideas. She'll make it a memorable event.
There you have it.
So interesting that Bush finally supports President Trump in his reelection bid. It's George P.
George P. is one of the more useless Bushes coming down from the useless lineage of Jeb Bush.
But, you know, he did have an interesting point because he says he's the only thing standing between socialism and freedom in America.
I agree 100%. Donald Trump is the only lighthouse between socialism and democracy. No doubt about it. If the Democrats somehow Republicans fail to vote in numbers sufficient to allow Joe Biden and his unannounced running mate. Think about it, folks. For months from an election, Joe Biden still has no idea, number one, that he's running, and number two, that who he's going to run with.
And don't forget, he's got the nomination. He secured all the delegates he needed.
And do you know why the Democrats haven't named a running mate for Joe Biden?
Because there isn't a credible one worth a darn that brings anything to the ticket that would bring voters to the Democrat side. It's all everybody there that they've been naming is very divisive. They might bring this small group of voters, but they alienate this group of voters.
Right. The thing is, a month ago, merely a month ago, I was even concerned about Governor Cuomo from New York. Thought, man, this guy's a hitter. He's making bold statements. And it just took a couple of weeks. Yeah. He's got nipple ring piercings. He's got him and his brother are having a public spat about which one mama liked more. He's just a typical New York liberal idiot. And once that came out, there's no way Biden could name him as his running mate. So they're going to wait till the very last minute so that person can't talk enough to get themselves in trouble.
Well, they can't wait that long. They're going to have to get them on the mail-in ballots that they're going to send out to everybody.
Well, that's true.
Yeah. A lot of primaries held yesterday and a whole lot of hassles. Polls were open all night. Mail-in ballot problems. It'll probably all flesh out today, and we'll have a little bit more on that tomorrow.
Okay, so James Kerr says he's not a fan of George P. What did Lisa Poole say?
Says George P. wants to dismantle the cenotaph.
What is that? I think she's talking about the Alamo.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
She's a teacher. She uses big
I know big
like
words.
that. Cenotaph.
Where this is radio, we use 2 cent words here.
Yeah.
But tell me how you feel on this, because I've got a real problem with this, and I've had a problem with this when Obama does it. I have a problem when
Talk to me about your problem.
turns out that a nonpartisan watchdog group did a old Freedom of Information Act to find out what was happening with the cost of Donald Jr.'s hunting trip to where did he go? He went to to Africa to hunt some big game sheep, right? You pay attention, or you just?
I'm trying.
right?
I'm reading some. Yeah. Go ahead.
$76,000 Secret Service tab for him to go over there. He paid for the trip, which is fine.
Right.
Why do we keep funding these things for the family members?
I don't know. It all started when President Obama was going off on vacations, and Michelle had to take her staff that was like 15 people. Melania Trump has like 2 staff members, and really, I mean, in contrast, I think Michelle had like 30. No kidding.
But here's Donald Jr. going off on a hunting trip, and we got to pay $76,000 for his Secret Service.
Yeah, and I'm not sure that we should, but I think it's protocol. I mean, the guy ought to be able to live his life just because he happens to be the president's son.
Well, he's also.
A
Well,
political-
maybe that's something. Maybe there's some reform that needs to happen.
But it's $76,000, and I'm sorry, it's got to start somewhere. We're giving away trillions.
No, I know that,
It's like,
but that's just one example.
no, I just got this
Yeah,
text
wait.
from T-Lab, who's a regular contributor to the show, one way or the other, and said that the local paper is reporting that that it says Victoria County Sheriff candidate says he cannot attend a Victoria advocate debate. And I said, which one? And she said that it appears that Dale Fowler is available for the debate and that Justin Marr is not. Now, to be honest, or to be transparent, which is not a requirement of our radio show, but it's something we always do, we have reached out to both camps, Justin Marr and Dale Fowler, offered them both airtime, and promised to, obviously, like we do everybody, treat them fairly. But we also said, hey, we'd like to get you in, ask you some questions. I'm curious as to how many of you folks out there feel that you really know where these sheriff candidates stand on any issue. This COVID deal disrupted campaigning. It disrupted the public's right to know.
Well, I believe there was a Republican women's debate on Tuesday in person. I don't have all the details.
There was, or there is?
No, there's going to be on
There's going to be.
June 16th, or when's the 16th? Yeah, the 16th is Tuesday. Yeah. Bill Posey would know.
So, I mean, I'm strongly encouraging both candidates.
And we'll reach out to him again, because I think
And
it's
have.
important, because
I mean, I have recently to both.
the primary is now in July, right?
Yes. 26th, something like that. 16th, doesn't matter. It is in July. I've reached out and certainly made it very clear that I want folks to come in.
So I think there's a great opportunity on Tuesday to go listen to the candidates in person.
Good.
So, and I know Justin Marr will be at that one.
Well, I mean, and in all fairness, to not be at a debate by the advocate is no big. So, I mean, I've been in their debates. They're not really debates; they're orchestrated propaganda events. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's a forum. Yeah, July 14th. Thank you. Is the primary? Yeah, it's a forum. It's not really a debate. They ask a question, might have a chance to rebut a little bit.
Callie Frommy asked, how have they responded to your invitation? To be honest, both have kind of said, "Well,
yeah,
I'd like to be the last
but
one in, and I haven't done it yet." And I believe they both will. They're not dodging me. Don't get me wrong. I just want to make sure that folks know that they've been invited in.
Yeah.
And it's important to us.
So
Two very different candidates, two very different styles. It is voting for sheriff this term is number one. It's a change because T. Michael's been there so long, but also it'll be a philosophical change. It's not like which one is going to do the same thing. They both have very different skill sets, and we'll have to see how that plays out.
and they're the two left standing after the primaries in March.
Right, Philip Dennis and the nice lady. I'm just drawing a blank.
Yeah, me too.
Melissa. Yeah. Super. And by the way, don't let my 57-year-old brain dissuade you from thinking that she's sharp, because she's sharp.
Yeah. Not as sharp as us this morning, but very sharp. So
it's Wednesday.
White Trash Services, folks. If you need, they could pull us out of this dumpster fire right now.
550-1826. They just roll us both over into a bigger dumpster.
Yeah, and then haul us away. Melissa Rendon. Thank you, James Kerr.
Thank you, James.
If anybody has details on the Victoria or the Republican Women's Canada Forum, it's I think Tuesday. Please post those as well.
TLAC comes in with her. And by the way, she just demanded that Facebook make her a top fan. I don't even know what she had to do.
So 550-1826. Give the folks at White Trash Services a call. They can handle all your refuse needs, from weekly trash collecting service to a dumpster to a large roll-off. They've got it all. So if you're doing some clearing, if you're doing some remodeling, if you're doing construction work, they can handle all your collection needs, right down to just tossing your bag of trash into
that's what got me. I knew it was like a hyphenated. I knew it was three names and Wasachek. That's what threw me. And Melissa, I apologize.
Me too. 550-1826 is the number to call.
I visited with, don't forget everybody, Dwayne Proctor at GDP Text, 550-4744. If you have a laptop problem, printer problem, if they don't talk to each other. And also yesterday, I spent time with compadres and ordered some new swag.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Uncle Mutt's Barbecue. Stopping by for all your barbecue favorites. Chicken, ribs, brisket, sausage, turkey. They've got it all. All the sides, all the accoutrement.
I love it.
Pea salad for Brent.
The best iced tea in town, and pea salad is fantastic. Okay, so Jennifer Morris says 5:30 Tuesday at the Victoria Country Club.
Thank you, Jennifer.
The Victoria.
That's the Republican Women's Candidate Forum.
This next Tuesday, the 16th, 5:30 p.m. at VCC.
I'm assuming you have to buy tickets.
I'm sure they.
I think you did the one at Club Westerner that was held earlier. And don't forget, Wen Electric, folks. If you want a generator, if you need electrical service, if you need some work done, they can handle it all.
Solar panels with a battery backup.
From small electric needs to making sure that you're never without power.
This technology just keeps getting more and more refined, and the ability to store this power now after the sun goes down is a valuable part of your electric protection. Think of it as insurance. They have multiple brands: Kohler, Cummins, Briggs and Stratton. They've got, of course, Generac. They have apps now, folks, that not only will your generator automatically kick on and test itself, it'll send you a message that everything's okay. So it gives you peace of mind. I know several people that have one that just say, hey, if there's a glitch in the power, my generator just kicks on and off we go.
I know HR Mallory's in, and I know we're going to talk a little bit more with Sheriff Louderback on Friday, but there's some bills now being floated in the Senate and the House for some, Justice Reform Act.
The love bill, Justice Reform. How can you be against it? They give them such names.
Well, the Justice Act,
the Justice League.
Yeah, we've seen states ban chokeholds.
Superman Act.
What about the Aquaman Act?
Right. The Mr. Rogers Love Your Neighbor Act. How can you be against it? You can't be against it.
Couldn't be. So the Justice Act, which has been brought forth or proposed by Republican Senator Tim Scott, would focus on the issues of reporting, I know from my day job, the intricacies of reporting crime statistics to the federal government. It's very meticulous. You have to do a lot of phone calls and data gathering, and it can be very cumbersome.
Right.
And I know how well it's done by the folks that compile that at UHV. But I could imagine there are some that just don't care out there, and maybe the data is not as accurate as it should be. But to me, that's part of the problem. Let's make it easier to report the data than the cumbersome efforts that are required now to report the data. And some do a good job and some don't. They're also talking about accountability. I think Chris Conrad yesterday said, it's interesting. He pointed out the left wanted body cams. They got body cams. Now they're not so sure they want the body cams because sometimes they show something that happens that, goes against the narrative that they were trying to perpetuate. Right. But he also said, you know what? These things need to be on from the minute you leave your car to the minute whatever encounter is over. And I tend to agree with them. And you know what? If you don't do it once, there's a warning. You don't do it twice, find another career.
Yeah. Well, see, so I'm going to follow that up with James Kerr says, hey, when your life is on the line, you do what you have to do to subdue the combatant. I don't have a problem with that. I believe that the police officer's life comes before the perp's life. And I think that since we're going back to the most blatant recent example, is that George Floyd was in no immediate danger to that police officer. No. There were 4 of them there.
Not at all.
There was no reason to be on his neck crushing his windpipe. But I'll tell you that mentality, James Kerr is a longtime military person, and thank you for your service. There is a big disconnect between military police. Our military people are taught to eliminate threats. And
it's a shoot first.
And I've got no problem with that. And there's a place for it. But in our police force, we need to be a little bit more like a pastor than a judge and jury. And I do have a problem. And Sheriff Louderback will tell you this. I hope. I'm not speaking for him, but I'm telling you, when you have military people come back with a military mindset, they must be trained extensively to be effective, empathetic law enforcement officers, because they're not long on empathy, and that's good. I'm glad about that when they're in our military. But it's hard to teach a sniper to talk to a little old lady about her dog getting stolen.
HR says wrong, and HR would know from his experience because he's a former Army captain.
Perfect example of look at that. He's all yelling at me. He's basically got his knee on my throat just because he doesn't agree with me. Now, HR, call us up, HR, 575-9509. Let's talk about it. Love him.
But there's a lot of issues. I mean, think about it. In the 60s and 70s, we didn't have a lot of this stuff, but we also locked the crazy people away, never to see the light of day again.
Right.
They weren't walking the streets posing threats, right? And let's be honest.
No, that's true. Because we used to call crazy people crazy. Now they're disenfranchised and they vote Democrat.
And they can take their meds if they want to, but they don't have to keep them as productive members of society. And then there's no recourse. And then they go and do something crazy, like shoot up a building, and then we're left to pick up the pieces afterwards.
Well, I want HR to call because I want to ask him, do you feel like you still use your military savvy in the field as a DPS trooper, but you don't use the same techniques that you would use in the military? You know what I'm trying to say. If you know what I would say if I could think about what to say, right?
Yeah.
But I'm curious to see. I would love to visit with HR about that. There's Benzel Rob Royer, better known as Rob Roy. Jamie and Ben in separately. Look at that.
Yeah. Derek Sertella, good morning. A couple other things in that bill. They were talking about training. And maybe that's the key. Instead of defunding the police, let's put a little bit more emphasis on the training, right? On other ways to do things. That might be instead of BLM going to the Fort Worth City Council and saying, hey, take this money out of the police, put it into these initiatives. Oh, and by the way, hire these folks that we want to oversee that, because basically it becomes socialism and just a wealth transfer at that point.
Here's the problem that I've got, and I figured out how to tell you this about BLM. The only reason that BLM has a voice is the fear of what riots and looting they might incite. They claim they don't do any of that, and that it's Antifa that's causing the problems. If that's the case, their quiet, peaceful protest just doesn't carry enough weight to start making public policy. It just simply doesn't carry enough weight.
Well, it would if you didn't try to, as conditions to that policy, suggest who needs to be employed. That lets me see right through your game. You don't want change. You want people in positions of perpetual government income. That's all it is. It's patronage is what they're trying to do.
That's right.
They're trying to accomplish there.
They're trying to exert influence. They just simply don't have. The numbers don't merit their influence.
James Kerr says there's a time for empathy, winning hearts and minds, and detaining a combatant suspect.
No doubt. And if we have a problem on the street, I want a vigilant officer to show up with bad intentions. That's what I want. I'm just saying that I believe that the influx of military veterans into our police force may have been a better trained officer, but it did not bring in a more calm officer in general. HR, you there? Set me straight, because you know I'm always willing to learn, sir. Totally agree. Hang on. I agree 100%. And I didn't mean to imply that the police use too much force, even in general. In general, they don't. But we kind of tied it
Majority of the times they don't.
Yeah, we kind of tied it back to George Floyd. And I'm like, I think that,
I mean, if you look at there's what, almost 1 million police officers in this country?
Yeah, 800,000, I think.
Somewhere there, 800, 900,000. You would think the number of interactions with police on a daily basis has to be in the millions across this country
every day.
And it's not like 500,000 of them are violent. I mean, we're talking very, very few of these episodes and interactions get to the point of violence, and then even fewer lead to death.
Absolutely.
And that's just in New York City.
Right.
Yeah. Well, but they rise to our consciousness, not just because of the media, but as we saw with the George Floyd video, it's horrific. But it's not the norm.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And even the one that started to get traction is the number of unarmed people that are killed, broken down by race. But again, what it doesn't show you is what led to that happen. Just because they're unarmed doesn't mean they're not a threat.
Well,
They
that's
might
right.
have gone for your gun. They might have tried to jump you. Who knows, right?
Hey, and you're in those situations that what the media tries to insinuate is that an unarmed guy was just shot like vigilante style, instead of saying, I told him to raise his hands. He did not. He had his hands in his pockets. When he started to bring his hand out, I felt that I had to discharge my weapon. And the next thing you know, it's like, oh, you shot an unarmed guy. Well, it's not like you just walked up and shot him on the street. You know, in general.
The circumstances and the details don't get played out in those statistics. And that's, I think, where we need some reform. What are the statistics and the details that led to these things? That would paint a clearer picture than just, was he black? Was he white? Was he Hispanic? Was he Asian? Was she black? Was she white? Was she Asian? Was she Hispanic? Those numbers don't paint, they paint a picture. They don't paint the entire picture.
Well, and HR is such a nice guy and such a fine gentleman, friend of the show, friend of me, you know, off the air and all that. But I think what I was trying to say that, and I've got no problem, and I'll own what I've said. What I was trying to say was, when you take a gung-ho first responder mentality from the military and you bring them back and try to introduce them into a civilian police force, I think there's a funding issue, a funding opportunity where a defunding of police does not give that individual the training they need to kind of shift gears. And I wonder, or I've made the assumption, maybe I'm dead wrong, I've made the assumption that without that training, some of those former military individuals could be a liability on a police force. But that doesn't mean I'm right. I mean, the numbers may not bear that out. I just think it's an opportunity to really spend money training those people.
Kristen Stenell checking in, Natalie Mayer, Brent Anderson, appreciate anything you want to add to that, HR? Well, and let's talk about that, because there was a certain administration that really lowered the ball, or the bar, I should say, on training and expectations, and nobody talks about what the Clinton administration did. So,
well, I mean, I don't think that it's a problem, HR, that you drive your DPS Tahoe and you have a RPG in the back. I don't think that's a problem. You know, I couldn't catch
and
them.
Torpedoes in the bumper.
Just fired off a rocket. They had a bad tail light, didn't pull over. Bam.
Doesn't know where to go with this now.
Yeah, we love you.
We appreciate it, HR. Thanks for the call.
We'll see you, brother. Of course, we'll get into
He'll think twice about calling us again.
No,
I'm just kidding.
He's a great
Yeah, no. Brent Anderson checking in. Steve Tyler brings up a good point. To the media, armed is with a gun, not a car, not an axe, not a knife, not a bomb, not the ability to jiu-jitsu you to death.
Right. I mean, if I'm out in my front yard holding my TV remote and saying, come a step closer, I'll blow it up. I mean, at some point you may have to shoot me.
You don't know.
Right.
Yeah. The other one in here was community relations. To me, that's a little bit of an overstep from the federal government, right?
Right. And the police, that comes back to the policeman that used to walk the beat. He knew his neighborhood. And I think that most cities have.
And should the federal government be setting the standards for police training?
No, because every city is different. Every community is different.
And I know they have standards for the FBI. And the day-to-day active duty FBI officer, well-trained, does their job, but all you've got to do is look at the higher echelons and see the ineptness in the FBI and the DOJ to wonder,
right,
do we really want them?
Career bureaucrats.
I mean, geez. McCabe and Rosenstein were going at it the other day, calling each other a liar.
Well, we'll have to do a little research and love your input. And again,
but these are the conversations that need to happen. And I'll be honest, I don't believe there's an issue in Victoria. Our numbers don't show it.
There's no.
We're not racially profiling.
No.
We had an issue 5 years ago with that old man driving the car that didn't pull over. The policeman tased him, roughed him up, gone. He was fired.
That's right. And
I don't think
the man was still wrong. The man was still wrong. Should have stayed in his car.
Steve Tyler says Fed sets standards for schools and many professions. They do.
And how they screwed that up.
Yeah, exactly.
the Fed set standards for our schools and they've screwed that up.
Well,
royally.
are you going to see police departments say, you know what? I don't like your standards. We're just not going to accept your federal money. I don't know if that would happen because they're so reliant on it.
It's funny how much money seems to drive so many people's decisions in the way they do things. It's all about money.
Paul Ebner checking in. Brother Gary's here. I don't know if Ralph's here yet.
I'm a little late.
He's
But
running
he'll
a
be
little
here.
late, Gary says.
Congratulations.
And we're running on time, so we'll get out of here, folks.
We're going to get out. And
And we'll
Brother
see-
Gary will be in tomorrow. He better have some content.
And we'll see y'all tomorrow.
Nothing right now. I'm working.
Bye, folks.
Bye, folks.
Thanks, HR.
Good job, boys.
Thank you, sir.
Very good.
Well, you know, HR is such an exception to the rule, you know, or the stereotype. He's such a good guy.
He's so good.
He's such a good guy that he says wrong, wrong, wrong. I mean, I think that if you took a bunch of military people who are used to engaging the enemy and you allowed them to set up these 6 Marines, there would probably be less crime, but there would also be probably more intimidation, more people get shot, more people get killed with. Yeah. Yeah, it'd be crazy. And I told him, I said, appreciate the way you want to do it. I said, above all, you were a friend.
Tell you what though, Biggie Craig's not gonna be able to go to the Steelers game and have a beer on the gas and not get absolutely amazing. Yeah, he considered the game to have a couple of beers on party gas and nobody said a word about it. You get to the bigger city and force the bigger city. He'll be, if he does, he'll be fired over it. Oh, and he said he was anyone when I came up and just as an officer, there's a reason that talks to the mayor and Washington and because we were not, it was not expected for us to be picked in public. And I said, I want to have a little company. Well, sort of like this, not one. That's how we take it out. Ow. Oh, man, you did good, right? He did good. Y'all both good. That's all it is, man. That's all it is, man. We're not gonna talk about it anymore. Yeah, okay. We don't have curling. We still don't have basketball. What do we got now? Catapult. We won't be on it. What's interesting is the stock market back where it was. The NASDAQ 30 million people out of work. The economy's just like the people that aren't working, the people that companies didn't need. Think about it. He had somebody looking at his garage. They were there, and he's running a little late. So I'll just hang out right there and say, shut up, Jack. I never said that. 10% of the what I'm doing. No. Here he goes. Yeah, George. What? Huh? All right, I appreciate it. Thanks, brother.